Quite hard to talk and do the makeup. This book, how you can create your dream life, incredible stuff. The first time I watched it, I was like, oh my gosh, summer is so horrible. Would you say like Sauron is redeemable? Can I just say that film, it is relentless in the emotional roller coaster it takes you on. Hello, welcome. In today's video, we're gonna do a chit chat, get ready with me. I have all of my makeup here. It's heavy. And I have my cup of tea. I've planned out the topics that I'm going to talk about. I just thought it would be interesting to try a different format, do something I've not done before, and we'll see how we get on. I finished my dissertation over a week ago and I am very happy to have finally got it out of the way. As a result of that finally being done, while I do have other things to work on at uni, I now have a little bit more free time. To celebrate the fact that I finished my dissertation, I started a new book that's not related to my course at all, which feels like a bit of a treat because I do have a lot of reading to do just for my course, but I thought I've done so much reading for my dissertation, I'm going to read something just that I want to read alongside all of the other things I'm reading. And so I got this book, Becoming Supernatural by Joe Dispenza, out of the library. It's fascinating. While it is extraordinary, the things that he's talking basically about how you can create your dream life. There are quite a few stories of people healing like chronic back pain, really incredible stuff through these meditations and the techniques that he's outlining in the book. And there are two things I want to say here, because while it is extraordinary, growing up in the church, I already have experienced the collective power of prayer. I feel like I'm gonna look crazy, my makeup's half done, but we're talking about it now. In the foreword of this book, they talk about how amazing it is to have 50 people in the same room using these techniques to kind of up-level their consciousness and just tap into like a higher vibrational energy. Some of it I'm like, I'm reading it. I think it's good to challenge yourself sometimes. Try and expand what you normally read or what you normally think. You can track the changes. They use all sorts of things to track like people's brain waves as they're doing this stuff. Becoming supernatural, it sounds like it's all spiritual, but there's quite a lot of neurological stuff. But they're talking about, oh, isn't it great, 50 people? And I'm like, well, yeah, but this is what prayer is. Getting a group of people together to pray for a specific person or a specific event, a specific country, like whatever you're praying about. Growing up, like, yes, it was Christians, but people all over the world of different, like, either religions or spiritual traditions know the power of assembling a big group of people together and meditating or praying on a certain topic. So while it was a good foreword and I was like, oh, this is interesting, I don't think it had the power for me that it might have done if you're someone who has never really explored the spiritual side to life, because for me I was like, yeah, this isn't anything new, this is just normal and it's not anything groundbreaking. That's not to say it's not important though. But the second thing, already made a mess down here. But the second thing that has stuck out to me as I've been reading it is that it's the power of persistence, because yes, these people are describing their experiences of meditating and then healing themselves through the techniques that he is outlining in this book. It's not like an instantaneous thing. They're not like, oh, I've practiced this for a week or even a month and it's now coming to fruition already. When he's describing it, he's saying these people have committed to these meditation practices and to improving their life, and they've done it over like a year or so of just consistently showing up for themselves, doing this thing, even if it's not in that moment showing them big results. And I think that's something powerful, because not only, like, yes, this stuff that he's talking about is groundbreaking, but it's also, like anything else, you need to practice and it's not going to be an instant result, which why would it be? The idea is that once you've got the meditation, the techniques down, then yeah, you are able to make things happen. But it's like anything. I mean, you didn't know how to walk, right? You didn't know how to write. Some people don't know how to read. Like, there are so many skills that now we might take for granted because through practice, through repetition, through persistence, we just know how to do these things. But we forget that that was maybe a difficult process or a prolonged process. And I just think it's interesting how that's coming up in this spiritual book. I'm really enjoying it so far. He talks about the idea of, wait, I don't know what I'm doing. Let's sort out my face first because I feel like I've still got a big stripe down my nose. One of the things he talks about is the idea of making a mind movie to help you achieve whatever your goal is. He talks about making mind movies for health or for wealth, for relationships, for anything that you're trying to, I guess, manifest in your life, although he doesn't use those terms. And that was an interesting idea for me, because if you're someone who has made a vision board, I made my first vision board at the beginning of this year, and I really enjoyed just the process of making it, but I also enjoy having it. So this idea of a mind movie is that while a vision board is static, right, it's just still images, A mind movie is something that you create with either videos or moving images or a series of images, and a crucial part of it is you can put in affirmations over the top. The most crucial part of it is the soundtrack, so you pick a song which really inspires you and motivates you in the context of whatever goal you're trying to achieve. So I did this, and it only took me probably, actually I timed it exactly, because I was like, I wonder how long this is going to take. It took me only 2 hours to do in total, in terms of finding the photos I wanted, choosing the song, and writing the like affirmations to go over the top. And I guess that process was made quicker by the fact that I am used to making videos for YouTube, so that wasn't really a problem in terms of working out how to do all of the editing. I'm still in the very early stages, so I can't say like, oh my gosh, it's magic, it worked. But it's interesting, and it does, whenever I watch it, it does inspire me. You're supposed to watch it then as soon as you wake up and right before you go to sleep, because that's the time when your subconscious mind is most open to suggestibility. But I have not yet built a routine around doing that. So for instance, I didn't watch it last night. It's the early stage of like building a habit. I still don't quite have it down, but I am working on it. But that's an experiment, and that felt like the easiest option for me to do. There are different meditations he suggests, like a walking meditation or different like breathing techniques, and I did try some of them, but I think they are definitely things that require practice, whereas the mind movie, I felt quite able to do that straight away, so that seemed the most obvious one to start with, and we shall see how it goes. I've not yet finished the book. I'm pretty far through it though. Yeah, I'm quite far through, and I'm really enjoying it, so I'd recommend it to anyone. What are we doing now? The other thing that I wanted to talk about, oh my gosh, tea break, quick tea break. I love green tea. The other thing I wanted to talk about in this Get Ready With Me is also linked to the fact that I finished my dissertation, and so now I have a bit more free time. I rewatched in the last week The Lord of the Rings. Sorry, this requires a bit more concentration than everything else. I don't want to poke myself in the eye. This doesn't really do anything. My eyelashes are non-existent. It's mainly just so I can get them out of the way so that then I can do the eyeliner right. No, I rewatched The Lord of the Rings, and I rewatched the extended edition because we have the extended edition, and it's just so good. I was remembering when I finished my GCSEs, I can remember coming home after one particular day, maybe I had 2 or 3 exams in that one day, and watching The Fellowship of the Ring. I don't know if now it's kind of not a tradition, maybe, where every time I finish a big piece of work, I feel drawn to watching The Fellowship of the Ring. And then yeah, I watched all 3 of them over the past week. One of the privileges, I think, of getting older is that you get a really different perspective of things. I know people have talked about this in terms of 500 Days of Summer, that film. Basically what I'm trying to say is I have a very different perspective on Lord of the Rings now than when I did when I first watched it like 10 years ago. But the same thing happened particularly with 500 Days of Summer, that film. If you've seen that, I will leave a link to the video that I'm thinking where someone went really in depth on this, because it was such a cool video and it really resonated with me. But 500 Days of Summer, I think it came out in 2009, and I remember we watched it like as soon as it came out. I think someone downloaded it off of like Putlocker onto a CD so we could watch it in a DVD player when it was still in the cinema. I remember there being some illegality about it, but we watched it straight away when it came out, and then I rewatched it a few times because I love that film. But it's so interesting because the first time I watched it, I was like, oh my gosh, Summer is so horrible. I really identify with Tom. This is like, how could she do this to him? And then I watched it like 5 years later, and I was kind of stunned by the fact that my view of the whole situation had completely shifted. And now I was like, Tom was so unreasonable. Like, why did I hate Summer so much? And maybe it was to do with the age I was when I watched it, or maybe that's part of the experience of watching this film, where when you're first introduced to the story and the characters, you do have like a romanticized view of it, the same way that Tom romanticizes his relationship with Summer. But then when you revisit it, because you know the story already because you've already watched it, you're then able to see more of the subtleties, or I don't know. But that is a very, very interesting experience, to revisit a piece of media that you watched ages and ages ago and then have a completely different experience of it. So if you have watched 500 Days of Summer and you've not rewatched it since the first time you watched it, maybe watch it again and see what you think, because you might surprise yourself. But in the same vein as revisiting 500 Days of Summer and having a different experience of the film, the same thing happened in a smaller way, definitely, but still to some extent when I was rewatching The Lord of the Rings. Oh, tea. Where am I? I rewatched one of my videos from last week and I realised my makeup looked crazy. So I need to make sure I don't do the same thing. I have a feeling I'm about to. At least I'll have it on camera so I can see where I'm going wrong. Sorry, I feel like I need to concentrate on this and then we can talk Lord of the Rings. I think I've done it. I think I've done exactly the same thing as I did in the last video. Oh well. We'll just have to go with the crazy blush look. Why don't I do some eyeshadow now? No, the thing this time that stuck out to me with Lord of the Rings was that the evil, particularly because I watched Return of the King last night, so that's what's most in my mind. Or I watched the second CD because, as I said, we have the extended edition. It would take, I think, like 4 hours, so I was watching just one disc at a time. So yesterday I was watching the second disc of Return of the King, and there were quite a few battle scenes, as you would expect. And before we get into the point I'm making about evil, can I just say that film is, in terms of the structure of it, the structure of the second half of it, it is relentless in the emotional roller coaster it takes you on. Like, you have Frodo and the spider, and then he gets away from the spider and you're like, oh, good. But then the spider comes back and then you're like, no. And then Sam arrives, so you're like, yay. And then they're all like just constantly back and forth. And the same thing even with like Minas Tirith, where you have Gandalf and Pippin on one of the levels, and the Witch King of Angmar comes down and is about to kill them, and Gandalf's staff is burnt by him, and then even when he just starts speaking, Pippin is like, oh my gosh, like, ah! And it's like a really horrible, terrifying scene. But then you switch to Gondor's arrived, so all of the Rohirrim are there, and you're like, oh great, like, and then they charge the orcs, and the orcs are really scared. You're on a high then, and it switches again, because then the Oliphants are here, and it's just, what, like an emotional roller coaster. So well structured. That's a side point. The main point I'm trying to make is that the thing that stuck with me this time as I was watching it was how clearly defined evil is. We have that in some ways in the real world as opposed to Middle Earth. We have that in some ways. Some people are outright terrible, and it's clear that they are on the side of, I don't know, it's to say on the side of evil seems dramatic, but do you know what I mean? There are people who are clearly out for their own good. They cause harm to other people, hurt other people, kill other people. It's very clear that they're the bad guys. But so many people fall on like the middle of the spectrum, or they're not like outright evil. You can't paint them as the baddies, even though they are. It made me sad watching it this time, because I was like, we don't have that. Like, you look at Sauron, you look at the orcs, you look at the Uruk-hai, you look at Saruman, and it's clear they are evil, but we don't have that same distinct separation in our worlds between people who are good and people who aren't. And I guess in some ways, like on the good side, that is obviously good because it leaves space for redemption, whereas I don't think, would you say like Sauron is redeemable? I don't think so. But on the other side of it, it means that you have people who can present themselves as good whilst having really evil intentions, and they can just muddy the waters. It's not obvious that they are evil or bad. This was what was going through my head. And then because I also was thinking about rewatching The Rings of Power, I don't know why I'm on like a Lord of the Rings marathon, but I also want to reread the books. But I was thinking about The Rings of Power, and I'm like, oh, I guess in the same way that in Middle Earth, in The Lord of the Rings, they have Sauron who's outright evil, in The Rings of Power, we have like Halbrand, and I don't know where they're going to go with him, but if you look at Tolkien lore, you have Annatar, which was how Sauron disguised himself before he was just outright eye on the top of Barad-dûr in Mordor. And I think that's more what we have in our world. We have like all of these Annatars wandering around, pretending like they're good, when actually they have really horrible, evil intentions, and they are essentially like the Great Eye, but they're just disguising themselves so well that people don't see it. Like Annatar in the Silmarillion fooled even Celebrimbor, which if you've watched The Rings of Power, you know Celebrimbor. And if you're not, this all probably sounds crazy. That's the power that he had to disguise himself. Even these really wise, supposedly astute elves didn't realise who he was. So that was my main takeaway this time from watching Lord of the Rings, which made me quite sad. Oh, my eyeshadow's gone crazy. Does it look crazy? Quite hard to talk and do the makeup. Let's try and be a bit normal. I think that's gone pretty well. Oh no. Have the last of my tea before I swap out my lipstick. Normally I like to go for something red, but I thought today I could go for pink lipstick. I used to think that lip liners were overkill and you didn't really need them, but oh my gosh, life-changing. Don't be like me. Use a lip liner. I'm going to use this fancy YSL lipstick. It smells amazing. And oh my gosh, look at that. Quite like that. I think this has gone quite well. I covered the topics that I wanted to cover. I mean, I'm not sure how much of it was me actually doing makeup at the same time as talking. I will see when I get to editing it. But let me know what you think of this new format. I enjoyed trying something new. This is your sign to do something different today, something out of the ordinary, something you don't normally do. It's actually quite rewarding, and what's the worst that could happen? God bless, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.